evening to you. Welcome to Gajali, our entertainment program on Prudent Media. My name is Frankie Fernandez, and I'm based in Melbourne, Australia. My guest is at the other continent. My guest is Emma Diniz Ryan, currently based in London. Welcome to our program, Emma Diniz Ryan.
Hi, Frankie. Thank you for having me.
All right, just to begin with, Emma is a chef. She suddenly took a liking for Goan food. All right. Emma, you've never been to Goa before.
I have never been to Goa before, no.
Okay. And how did the going for Goan food come about?
Well, I'm actually half Goan. So my mother's side of the family is all Goan, and I grew up eating Goan food. So my grandmother lived with us growing up. So pretty much my whole childhood and teenage years, I grew up eating Goan food. Even though I never went there myself, I was really fully immersed in it just from my home kitchen.
That's excellent. And so far, which is the Goan food that you like the best?
Well, I've been trying a lot of things over the past year. I love prawn curry. I would say that's one of my top favorites. I love bibinka. My grandma always used to call it bibik though. And I love all the different starters. Like I love samosas and prawn rissoles, and there's just so many things. I love vindaloo is one of the ones that I like to make a lot as well.
That virtually makes my mouth watery out here.
I know, me too.
It's past my dinner time. But anyway, now a little that I read about you. You studied digital art, and then you shift focus into cooking. How did that transformation come about?
Well, I started my career working in tech startups. So fresh out of university, I went and worked for a cloud computing company, and one of these sort of digital companies where it's all very hands-on and people try a lot of different roles. So I got into design when I was there, and then started taking up illustration because I thought I'd always liked drawing in school. And then as I got more into the digital side, I just sort of took up illustration as a little bit of a hobby. Then I met a girl who was also an illustrator, and we set up a business together where we were doing illustrations that were for companies. So we would go into conferences, go into corporates and help them visualize their business ideas, but using illustration. So I was taking the illustration that was a sort of hobby and an interest and turned it into a business. And I did that for a few years. And then the cooking sort of came off the back of that, really, because I was interested in cooking. I always liked it, but I never really took it too seriously. And then I was working as an illustrator and sort of decided I was going to combine the two.
One interesting thing that I came across was you are able to mix up your illustrations into your style of cooking. Okay. And you got something called as a Venn design?
Venn diagram.
Yeah, Venn diagram. Yeah.
Yeah. So that came about quite randomly, actually. I was exploring different ways that I could merge cooking with illustration. And I was doing a recipe for a Victoria sponge, just like a kind of a typical cake. And I thought, I wonder if there's a way that I could illustrate this in a way that isn't just, here's a list of ingredients, here's a list of what you do and a photo of it. So I thought, oh, mate, and I just was sort of doing a little bit of sketching, doing a little bit of experimenting. And I thought, actually, that's quite a nice way of doing it because you can get all the information just by looking at one tiny picture. You're not having to do a lot of reading. And I found I showed it to a couple of people. I posted it on my Instagram account, and people thought, actually, that's really helpful. There's a lot of people out there who are visual learners. And so just by seeing everything you need to know in a little picture like that, it's quite helpful.
All right. Now, you spoke about the Victorian sponge. Now, how do we connect that to cooking a Goan curry?
Well, I've also done one for a vindaloo. So that's also on my Instagram page. And I split it up into sections. So I had the marinade, so whatever the paste that you're marinating the pork in, and then also the curry. So you'd have a little Venn diagram which says, okay, this is the pork and these are the different spices, garlic, ginger, vinegar that you're marinating the pork in. Then the next stage, which is cooking the curry, you've got the onion, you've got the tomato, the more vinegar, the different stages. So I think it can actually apply to all recipes really, as long as you're not talking about something which is, a very long list of tasks, something which is just, you're doing 4 or 5 steps. I think it can, be portrayed really well in a Venn diagram.
All right. Now, I also read about the kalchi kodi.
Yes. So
Tell us a little bit about it.
the kalchi kodi, well, that's one of my favorite things to eat, is the reheated curry from the night before, especially like the base with the coconut that you'd make into a fish curry or a prawn curry. And I just like that when I heard that it was translated into yesterday's curry, I just thought that was such a nice phrase. I thought that's something which is sort of a hook and kind of could appeal to a Western market as well as the Goan market. So I kind of took kalchi kodi, turned it into yesterday's curry, which is the name of my newsletter, and also the range of spices that I'm planning to bring out here in the UK, little curry blends. And so that's kind of just what I call my brand and what I plan to call my cookbook. And just as a sort of way of introducing Goan food almost to the UK market in a sort of gentle way.
That's excellent. Now, on that note, I also like to know from you, preparing a Goan curry, for example, we in Goa, I remember when we were young, when we were small, my mom used to do it in an earthen pot. Okay. But now those earthen pots are no longer, especially over here in Australia, I don't find them very often, but we still managed to do it in a metal utensil. Do you think that the change in that from an earthen pot to a metal pot would change the flavor of a curry?
I've never used a clay pot before, but I have heard from people, I have spoken to Goans who have told me, there's a big difference in the outcome of the taste. And I imagine, I don't know personally exactly what the difference is, because I've only ever cooked in like a metal pot for curries. And actually I've used cast iron, but I wouldn't say I notice a particular difference in that. But maybe it's because you get sort of more insulation from a clay pot, and I'm not quite sure, but I do know that people do say there's definitely a difference. When I go to Goa, I'm going to try cooking in a clay pot and see if I can notice it myself.
I'm pretty sure you would be probably amazed with the way you taste it thereafter. Also, on that note, what's the best combination to have kalchi kodi? Is it with rice or with a bread or a Goan pao?
I like it with rice, but then I think both. It's a tricky one. I think it depends the texture. Like sometimes if it's a little bit thicker, I think it's maybe nice with a bread. And then if it's a little bit thinner, maybe with a rice. But I think it just really depends maybe what you fancy that day. I think maybe the actual fish curry or the prawn curry maybe with rice, and the next day, once you leave things overnight, they thicken and they get a little bit more, you could like really soak it up nicely with the bread the next day, I think, with a pao.
All right. The general tendency is that when people move out of Goa, due to various reasons, it could be probably that they do not have that much of time to prepare a Goan meal. Do you think that this is resulting into the Goan diaspora missing out on Goan food and getting acclimatized to something that is more locally available, like probably in Europe, where you are in London? Someone would prefer to have, instead of fish curry rice, might decide to go and have a burger or a pizza. Do you find that coming up?
Yeah, I think probably definitely. Especially somewhere like Goa, where I live in South London, there isn't really much in the way of Goan restaurants. I know there's a few in North London, West London, where I haven't been yet, and I'm planning on going the next few weeks to see. I've heard a lot of things about the restaurants out there, but I think especially when you're talking about a cuisine which is underrepresented, like Goan food, you're not going to find it everywhere. And I think in different parts of the world, maybe like I say in London, in like Wembley and Hounslow, or maybe I know Toronto, there's probably maybe some restaurants there. There's a lot of Goan communities around the world, and they probably each have maybe a small little community that knows the right places to go. But I think in general, someone like me, I would be literally searching for it and not know really where to find it. And I think that's probably the case across the board, really, that you just think, oh, I'll just go and have a Chinese takeaway instead, like you say.
Uh, Now, I'm pretty sure you've got some Goan friends who would have often invited you for a Goan meal, and the meal that you had at their place, and the meal that your parents have prepared. Do you
Mhm.
find any difference in that?
I mean, I actually only know Goans within my own family because in my community, I mean, I've grown up because I'm maybe half Goan, half Irish. I've spent a lot of time with my cousins who are also Goans, but we didn't really know anyone that was outside of our family really growing up. So I would say my only experience of eating Goan food has been the food from my own family at home, but also my extended family, like my aunts as well. And we used to go when I was growing up to like extended family functions where, in the church hall and someone's cousin's cousin, makes all the different ingredients. So I know a lot of, tried a lot of Goan food from the sort of extended family friends, but me personally, I don't have any Goan friends my own age
Uh,
that I've eaten Goan food with. But that's something I'm hoping now that I'm doing this project, I maybe will meet some.
I'm pretty sure once this interview is done and dusted, and once it's out, that you would definitely have a whole lot of invites coming up
Yeah.
your way.
If anyone wants to take me to try the restaurants in Hounslow and Wembley, I'd be more than willing.
All right. Well, having said that, I've always believe me, I've never ventured out much into the kitchen. I have got no idea about cooking.
Mhm.
Having said that, I've been told that cooking say a three-course Goan meal is always a time consuming. Do you think
Mhm.
so?
I think it depends on what you're making, but yeah, I can see how that would be the case because a lot of the curries you might want to let them sit for a while. I mean, I personally would always, once I've made a curry or a curry sauce, wouldn't eat it straight away, but like make it in the morning or the night before, and then let the flavors really sort of develop before you're eating it. And the same with some of the other recipes, like if you're making samosas, if you're making potato chops, these are all things that really take time. You've got a lot of building, you've got a lot of preparation and then making things and then often frying things, or something like a babinka, which is going to take a long time to layer and then cook in the oven. So I imagine there are ways to make a Goan dish like quite quickly. You could make like a prawn chili fry or something like that. But if you were making a really good meal that was for like a festive occasion, that would probably take some time and preparation.
I can imagine when you have guests coming over and the host is preparing a Goan meal, it
Yeah.
definitely you quite a while to prepare
Mm.
a
A few
three-course
days
meal.
in it. You probably have to make us things a few days in advance.
Absolutely, absolutely. Uh, in terms of the quality of food, do you think that there is enough good quality uh, Goan restaurants in the UK? Uh, do they meet up with your expectations?
I mean, there haven't been, I've still got to try all of the restaurants which are in North and West London. This is something I only really found out about quite recently because I'd always eaten Goan food at home. It was one of these things my family always used to say, it's such a shame there's no Goan restaurants because we live in an area where there was no Goan restaurants. But there was a restaurant near me in Streatham called Old Goa, which I tried a couple of times takeaway, which was very, very good. But I don't think that's open at the moment since the pandemic. I've been like walking around there and I haven't seen it's open. So that is definitely a good one. But I've still got to try. I've been emailing back and forth with a few people in the last week, people like yourself, since I've been getting myself out there a bit more and started to work more on my project. And they have told me you have to check out Hounslow and Wembley. So that's my plan to go and see. And apparently you can get very good, authentic Goan food there. So I think that's the area which I haven't been to yet, where all the Goan restaurants are in London.
And I'm pretty sure it's summertime out in London at the moment, and you
Mm.
would definitely have a wide variety of Goan restaurants that are open and ready
Mm-hmm.
to serve, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. And I definitely want to try all of them. And I think people don't really know about Goan cuisine here. So I'd be really interested to see what those restaurants are like and, encourage people to go there.
All right. Coming to something very, very important, and that's the recent, you were shortlisted for the Yan Kit So Award,
Mhm. Yes.
uh, which is a big honor.
Mhm.
But tell us, how did it all come about?
So that came about last year. So 2019, I went to culinary school. So I did a year-long diploma to become a professional chef at the end of it. And while I was there, I found out about the Yankitso Award, which is basically an award which allows you, they fund a research trip. So you have to submit a proposal for a book and or an article or whatever, so a piece of writing that's gonna, you hope to be published, and you submit a proposal, and the award would be a bursary to travel to an Asian country and fulfill sort of, you know, a research trip that would then go towards a publication. So I submitted a proposal for a Goan cookbook. While I was at culinary school, we had a project to do, and I put together a few of my own Goan recipes in a little sort of booklet. And I was given a prize at the end of my culinary school for that book that I created. And then I found out about the Yankitso, and I thought, well, maybe I can take my school project and turn it into something a little bit more developed, a bit more advanced. And so I submitted that in April. And then I think the shortlist came out about a month ago now. So it's 6 of us, and everyone's doing really different things. There's some really, really great entries in the shortlist. And I'll find out in September what the result is of that.
All right, and I believe that this award also entitles you to travel to Goa, a place that you've been before.
Exactly, yeah. So in my proposal, I wrote about how I've grown up eating Goan food, and I really love Goan food, want to learn more about it, but that because I've never been there, and my knowledge is going to be limited to what I've grown up with my family. I want to really go there, meet people, spend time in people's kitchens, like meet people who are really knowledgeable about all the different types of cuisine, the Catholic, the Hindu cuisines, and really like immerse myself in it for a period of time. And so if I was to win the award, they would pay for me to go to Goa, and that would be, it's like a bursary scholarship type thing that enables you to do your research.
Excellent, and congratulations to you. Congratulations to you.
Very exciting.
What's your impression about Goa now that you are already dreaming about Goa? What's your impression been so far?
Well, one thing I have found recently is just like there's such a massive community feel. I mean, I obviously, my family have obviously been to Goa. My mum and my grandma and a couple of my cousins have been there on holiday when we were all younger, but I didn't really know much about it or about the people. I knew about the food pretty much only, and that it was obviously a beautiful place, you know, lovely beaches, etc. But I would say recently, in the last few months, I've been speaking to a lot of the Goan community online through Facebook groups and through emails back and forth. And I've just found that everyone is just very, very friendly and welcoming. And you talk to someone who knows another person. And it's just, I get this really nice feeling of just everyone's kind of really nice to each other and got a community feel and wants to help each other out. Like I have people emailing me who are really willing to help me and help me with my research. And so I think when I go there, I'll have a lot of people that I'm really looking forward to meeting.
All the very best for you. All the very best for you. In the years to come, do we see Emma setting up a restaurant maybe in Goa or in London?
I mean, maybe at the moment I have my knowledge of my Goan food growing up, but because I have so much to learn about the different specific regions and the different food, I would love to maybe after I've done a research trip, after I've written a book, think, okay, I now know enough to say I could set up a restaurant, probably in London, but just because I don't think anyone in London knows anything about Goan cuisine. It's so underrepresented that I think a Goan restaurant would, well, I know there already are Goan restaurants, but I think there's definitely space for another one, maybe more in central London to get, because I think the current Goan restaurants are very much in the suburbs or within certain communities know about them. I don't think there's anything mainstream for people who are just saying, oh, what's that restaurant? Let's go and give it a try.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a good thing. It's definitely a good thing, as you said. On that note, also I'd like to know from you, when it comes to cooking, is that something that you would do on a daily basis? I mean, a Goan cuisine, is that something that you would do on a daily basis, or it's just maybe once a week, or when you have friends over?
I would say more recently, it's been quite regular, maybe not every single day, but definitely several times a week, because at the moment I'm in the research phase of what I'm doing. And because I want to bring out a cookbook, I'm spending most of my time trying, experimenting with Goan flavors and researching and cooking things from Goan cookbooks. And because I'm writing my newsletter, which is to try and promote Goan food and get myself more knowledgeable, I say at the moment I'm cooking Goan food quite a lot and just trying to learn as much as I can from all the different online communities. So when I come to write my cookbook, I know as much as possible.
Now, talking about the cookbook, do you think that there is enough market for a cookbook that it can be out? When I talk about in terms of marketing, do you think there is enough scope for that?
Yeah, I think so. And particularly in the UK, regional Indian cookbooks are very, very popular. And I think in the UK as well, just people are very interested in trying new cuisines. And so I have spoken to agents and publishers, and I have got a ton of, my teachers at culinary school, and I've got a lot of reception from people who say, you know, we think that we would love to read a Goan cookbook because we didn't know anything about Goan food. And I think my plan is to present Goan food in a way which is sort of appealing to the Goan market and also appealing to the UK market. So, you know, thinking about what are all the essential Goan recipes from, you know, the Catholic side and the Hindu side, and how can you do justice to that, to the Goan community, while also introducing recipes that are accessible to a UK market. So I think there's definitely a huge gap in the market for a Goan cookbook. That's something that, you know, anyone could just buy when they're in a bookshop, rather than having to track down things online, which I think the status of Goan cookbooks at the moment.
Also, Emma, if you had to invite a guest over to your place and you were given the task of preparing a Goan meal, what would you prepare?
Well, I would prepare samosas for starter, because that is honestly my favorite thing to cook. And my grandma taught me how to fold the pastry. And I know that's not necessarily just a Goan thing, it's more of a general Indian thing, but that is definitely my favorite thing to cook when I have people around, because I just love making them. I think I would probably make a selection of curries. I'd probably make a vindaloo, and I'd probably make a fish curry, because they're both quite different flavor complexes. Rice, I'd probably make a few different types of pao, just so that people have got a selection. And then for dessert, I'd probably make, I mean, there's so many Goan desserts that I haven't made all of them yet. I would make a babinka if I was able to do it justice. I probably need to practice that a few more times, but I think I would probably like to make a lot of little dishes. I like, when I'm cooking for people, or even eating myself, being able to try lots of little bits on the plate. So some chutneys and a few starters, so it feels like a feast.
Now that you've told me about it, I'm pretty sure if I have an invite for me, this is what I'm going to be treated with.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. But what's Emma's favorite Goan dish?
This is a tough one, because I actually really like chicken charcuterie. Is something which first time I made it, I don't think I did a very good job, because I was just practicing, and then I made it again a few months ago and I got it really nice. So I think that is probably in terms of just the flavor, when I got that right, I thought, wow, I've really never tasted a chicken curry with this sort of level of complexity. So I think when that chicken charcuterie is made really, really well, I think that is one of the most delicious. I also like prawns when they're like fried in the semolina. That's another one.
Oh, yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I just love it. I eat that several times. I eat that all the time.
Okay, but is it easy for you to source out ingredients for a perfect Goan meal? Do you get them pretty easily out there?
I mean, there are a few Indian grocery shops near where I live, so I'm able to get some things. So I can get kokum, and I can get tamarind, and I can order like fresh frozen shredded coconut. I can just keep it in the freezer and use it. So there are options. It's not as easily accessible as it would be to, you know, make a curry from another. I could make, say, a chicken tikka masala. I know that's not really proper Indian curry, very easily just from supermarket ingredients. Whereas with Goan curries, you do have to source the coconut, and you've got to think about the souring agents. But I'm finding it's not too bad. There are things out there.
Do you think there is enough competition between a Gujarati food, or a Punjabi food, or a Bombay food, and a Goan food? Is there enough of competition in London?
I would say a lot of the Indian restaurants in London at the moment, they are very much focused on regional cuisine. So you'll find a restaurant which is taking a little bit of influence from different places. But when you think about what people know and what people are expecting when they go to an Indian restaurant, I do think it's more like Punjabi definitely is more well known, even Gujarati. I think when people go out and there's something going on the menu, they would just have never probably had it before. So I think of all of the regions in India that I can think of, I think Goan food is really sort of under the radar compared to some maybe the north of India.
Is there any role model that you follow when it comes to Goan cooking?
I really like what Chef Rigo does. I follow him on look at his YouTube. And then there's like Cyrus Todiwala in the UK. He's probably the only chef in the UK that does any sort of Goan food. And I know he's mostly Parsi cuisine, but he does a lot of Goan food. So I will look at his Goan recipe sometimes. But there isn't really any Goan chef in the UK, but there are people who I, look at their blogs or look at their YouTube videos, and I would use things like that.
Great. Now, coming back to going down to Goa, how soon can people in Goa expect you to be in their midst, or probably cooking with them in their kitchen? Or
I mean, it really does depend on the pandemic at this point. I would say if I was able to go between January and March of next year, so we're talking like 7-8 months time, I would love to do that, and I would be able to do that. But I'm sort of going to have to wait and see if we're allowed to fly to India. Fingers crossed. As soon as I can, I want to go there.
It's the same with me out here in Melbourne, Australia. We've been all longing to go down there and taste the best of Goan food.
Yes.
Not sure whether it's going to happen in 2022 or 2023. Just keeping our fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, have to wait and see.
Having said that, Emma, thank you very much. Thanks a lot for your time. Really,
thank you very much.
You give us a sense of where Goan food stands, and what your passion is and how important it is. Thank you once again for your time. And if we at all we do come down and cross paths in Goa, nothing like it.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'd love that.
All right. Thanks a lot once again.
Thanks, Frankie. Thank you. Bye.